The old house stood alone, shrouded in an eerie silence. It was perched precariously on the edge of town, like a forgotten sentinel guarding secrets best left undisturbed. Sarah, with her boxes and her dreams, arrived at the doorstep. A chill ran down her spine as she pushed open the creaking door. The air inside was stale and thick with the scent of decay. Dust motes danced in the faint rays of sunlight filtering through grimy windows. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, Sarah felt a strange sense of excitement. The house was full of character, with its high ceilings and ornate moldings. It whispered stories of a bygone era. As days turned into nights, she busied herself with unpacking and settling in. The silence of the house, once unnerving, became almost comforting. The creaking floorboards and the rustling of leaves outside her window were just the sounds of an old house settling into itself. Or so she thought. On the fourth night, as Sarah lay in bed, she heard it. A whisper, soft and indistinct, seemed to slither from the walls. Sarah, it hissed, her name a ghostly echo in the darkness. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding in her chest. Had she imagined it? The house was silent again, except for the steady thump of her own blood rushing in her ears. She told herself it was just the wind playing tricks on her nerves. But the whispers returned the following night, louder this time and closer. They seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, closing in on her, suffocating her with their icy breath. Sarah's fear was palpable now. It clung to her like a shroud, choking the air from her lungs. The house, once a source of fascination, was now a menacing presence, its silence a breeding ground for unseen terrors. She tried to rationalize the sounds, to attribute them to the house settling or the wind whistling through cracks. But deep down, a primal fear whispered that something was terribly wrong. Then came the night when the whispers turned into growls. A wet scraping sound like claws on wood echoed from within the walls. Sarah cowered under her blankets, her body trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, her phone rang, shattering the terrifying silence. It was her friend, checking in on her. "Sarah, are you all right? You sound strange." Her friend's voice crackled through the receiver. But before Sarah could answer, a cold, bony hand shot out from the wall, its long, sharp nails digging into her arm. A blood-curdling growl, guttural and animalistic, filled the room. Sarah screamed, dropping the phone, her eyes wide with terror. In the dim moonlight, she saw it. A grotesque figure, gaunt and skeletal, with eyes that glowed an eerie red. Its skin was stretched taut over its bones, and its mouth was twisted into a grotesque grin that sent shivers down her spine. The walls of the house seemed to pulsate around her, closing in like a coffin lid. The whispers reached a fever pitch, a cacophony of voices urging her towards the ghostly figure. She scrambled back, her heart threatening to burst out of her chest. "Get out!" the figure hissed, its voice a raspy whisper that seemed to claw at her sanity. Sarah didn't need to be told twice. She scrambled to her feet, her blood turning to ice as she registered the sheer terror of her situation. She ran, her bare feet pounding on the wooden floor, the ghostly figure's laughter echoing behind her. The front door loomed ahead, a beacon of hope in the suffocating darkness. But as she reached for the handle, the floor seemed to dissolve beneath her. She fell, tumbling into a dizzying abyss of shadows and screams. The house stood silent once more, the only sound the creaking of its old bones. When the police arrived, alerted by Sarah's frantic but disconnected call, they found the house empty. There was no sign of Sarah, no trace of a struggle, just an eerie silence hanging heavy in the air. Her neighbors, when questioned, swore blind that no one named Sarah had ever lived there. The house stood alone once more, its secrets secure, its silence unbroken. The only evidence that Sarah had ever existed was a single, cryptic message scrawled on the wall in what appeared to be blood. Beware the whispers.